to this show, and we love our veterans around here. So thank you so much for being a part of our family. Really appreciate that. Jello, good to see you. Logan, nice to have you back. Hi, Nikki and Fapster and Aussie, oi, oi, 416 Bitcoin, good to see you. The gorgeous Jordan Ashley Pettit has returned. Vanner Smith, nice to have you here. Derek Lindsay, what's going on? Yola Tango and 5900 are here. Sinister Vax, good to see you. Opa to you, Greco. The Ronald Penton is here, everyone. The Ronald Penton. As we continue on our scrolling, Greg Moyes, nice to have you back. And scrolling on down, the gorgeous Marie from LA. There she is, everyone. Give us a wave. And Black Dragon again. My goodness, I'm so thankful for you. Thank you again for another wonderful super chat, man. Way too kind, way too kind. We're going to get going here in about 20 seconds. Roy Boy, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Mandingo, good to have you here. Hi, lovely Jenny. Nice to have you back. Will, good to see you, my friend. And I think we're caught up. Oh, there's Gorgeous Larry and Carbine's Right. Good to have you guys here. Stetson John, nice to see you. The rest of you will have to wait because it is that time once again. Here we go. And we're going to get your horns up right now. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. I tell you, in 6 years of doing this show, I am so surprised and shocked that I finally get the opportunity to interview one of the legends in this field, and that is Barbara Lamb. And if you do not know who Barbara Lamb is, I mean, she is just one of the most wonderful people in this field. I got a chance to meet her in San Francisco a couple of years ago at UFOCon. Great time there. And she's always like, yes, I'll do the show. Well, guess what? We finally did it. We finally did it and got her here, and I'm so happy about that. So for those of you who don't know, Barbara Lamb is a longtime psychotherapist. She's been licensed since 1976 and a highly trained hypnotherapist and regression therapist since 1984. She's had 5 years of training in regression therapy by the International Association for Regression Research and Therapies. She became a trainer for that organization as well. In 1991, she shifted gears. She began regressing people who were talking about their details of extraterrestrial encounters and contact. She has regressed since then over 2,000 people in more than 4,000 regressions to learn about their paranormal experiences. And what a pleasure to have the Barbara Lamb on Spaced Out Radio for the first time. I am so honored to have you here. I'm sure you could see my excitement. Barbara, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure for me, Dave.
I got to ask you, I mean, you got into the human mind, obviously, because it interested you. That's how you became a psychotherapist. At what point from 1976 to 1991 did you decide that you had to all of a sudden start looking into this whole alien thing?
Well, it just evolved. I never consciously made a decision to be involved in this, but what happened after a few years of being a therapist is that I started having what I called spontaneous past life recalls. And that means that I was doing a lot of traveling to other countries, And in certain locations, I would have totally by surprise, I would have a very vivid memory of having been there a long time ago. Sometimes as a man, sometimes as a very dark-skinned person, sometimes as a different kind of female. Anyway, these were very impactful experiences and eventually led me into discovering that there was such a thing as past life regression therapy. And that interested me very much because of the spontaneous memories I'd had from quite a number of different past lives. And before that, I hadn't even believed that we have more than one lifetime. But these experiences were so impactful and realistic seeming that, I began to really open up about that idea. So anyway, for 5 years, I had training as a past life regression therapist. And that actually, when I was starting to use that with some of my therapy clients, to my surprise and to theirs, sometimes a regression would take us into a past life of the client, and that client had been an extraterrestrial being from another planet in those regressions. Well, you see, I didn't believe in that at that time, nor did my client. But this happened with about 4 different people, going back to previous lifetimes as an extraterrestrial being. So that sort of, brought my awareness to that whole subject. And then in my last module of training to be a past life regression therapist, the trainer, who was a really excellent therapist, said, those of you who are being trained to be past life regression therapists need to know that it's possible that at some time somebody might come to you who's been traumatized and confused, totally baffled, because they've had visits and have been taken away by very peculiar beings who are not human. And this just might happen, that you might have somebody come to you sometime like that. Well, I was really shocked to hear this, because this is a whole new concept for me, except for the few past life experiences where people had been extraterrestrials. And I just hadn't quite known what to make of that. Anyway, I found myself getting very curious about the whole subject, UFOs, flying saucers, extraterrestrials, aliens, or whatever we want to call them. And so I was going to some lectures of people. This was in the very late 1980s. And by 1991, I came to the conclusion, from having learned a bit about this by that time, I came to the conclusion that if anybody ever would come to me for that sort of reason, that I felt confident that just doing the regression techniques that I knew how to do, that I would be able to handle that. Well, as it happened, I think this is so incredible. 2 hours after deciding that, I was in a bookstore, and the woman behind the counter recognized me and that I do regression work. And she said, "Oh, please, would you work with my daughter, my 21-year-old daughter, who's having these strange beings come into her room at night and taking her away and doing all kinds of things. And she's totally traumatized, terrified. And so please, would you work with her and help her?" So that was the first person who came to me for extraterrestrial reasons. And that it was in the spring of 1991. Well, so I worked with her and seemed to be very, very successful. We did 6 sessions, 6 regressions, each one to a different extraterrestrial encounter. And she came through that feeling that she was privileged and honored to be having those experiences with those beings. Now, that was a huge change for her from having been totally traumatized and freaked out, and to feeling now, and this was completely her idea. I didn't suggest this idea, that she felt honored and blessed and privileged that they would choose her to have experiences with. So that was a great beginning for me in this work, and I've continued it very vigorously ever since 1991. I'm still doing a lot of regressions with people who've had extraterrestrial encounters or who wonder if some of the strange things they've experienced might have been an indication of extraterrestrial encounters. So it's been a very great privilege to work with this, and really an amazing wild ride, I must say.
No kidding.
I've learned so much. I feel really grateful for all the people who've come.
Barbara, what did you know about extraterrestrials and UFOs prior to 1991? Were you always a believer in this, or was this something you had to warm up to?
I was not a believer. I had seen the movie, which I loved, ET, and I had seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, as probably most of your listeners have. Way back, that was the end of the 1970s, I think, and early 1980s. And I loved those movies, but I didn't think they were real. I thought the whole subject about extraterrestrials and UFOs, I thought at the time, that was just very interesting science fiction. So it took several years to really start taking it seriously and thinking, maybe there really is reality to this. So I went into this not as a fan of UFOs at all, and was really surprised, very surprised that it turned out to be real. And then, since then, I've certainly realized that millions of people worldwide have been having these encounters with these other beings. And I've learned so much about this. I think it's just the most interesting subject there is, at least from my point of view. And it's such a widespread phenomenon. There are so many different species of extraterrestrials who come here, and they all have their own agenda. So once in a while, I'll meet somebody and they'll say, well, what are the aliens like? And I kind of laugh and I say, well, it depends on which ones you're asking about, because there are so many. I don't even know how many types, but some people who've really done research on that part of it have said that there are 60 types. Another person says there are 89 types. Another researcher says there are 106 different types of extraterrestrials that come here and interact with humans. And there may be more, for all we know. So it is happening a lot. And that doesn't mean that every person in the world is having these experiences, but we can be sure that millions and millions of people are having these and probably have had them their entire lives. And that brings up something very important, I think, and that is that these experiences usually begin in childhood or even in infancy. In fact, with one man I worked with for about 10 years and did quite a number of regressions, we at one point went back to his earliest experience that he had with extraterrestrials. And to our surprise, of that regression to his first experience took him back to when he was still in his mother's womb.
Really?
developing as a fetus, and he was about 7 or 8 months along in development in the womb, and the regression showed that still in the womb, he suddenly felt a warmth coming into him from the outside of his mother. And then he, in his own little head, heard what sounded like a male saying, "I am here to help you because you have a congenital hole in your heart. And if you're born with this hole in your heart, you will not live. Your heart will be bleeding out blood, and that will end your life. So I am here to put an invisible electromagnetic strip over the hole in your heart to hold the blood in, and then you will be able to live." So that baby was born and grew up to be eventually a big 6'4" strong, husky man who did a lot of labor work in his life. So he certainly survived that. And then in a number of different regressions we did during that 10 years, we found that with every encounter that he had with the extraterrestrials, the same extraterrestrial being put him on a medical table on the ship and worked on his heart again. As the being said, "I am refurbishing the invisible electromagnetic strip over the hole in your heart." So this kept the boy going well as he was growing up, and those visits continued during his adulthood as well. So he lived very healthily and strongly. He would have died right after birth if it had not been for this. And it was always the same extraterrestrial being. And that being who did that refurbishing work was described by my client as having faceted eyes, like a faceted glass that might be hanging from a chandelier, and like different angles to it, like a cut diamond sort of thing. That's the way his eyes were. And the two, the man and this particular extraterrestrial, got to have quite a friendly, wonderful relationship. And of course, the being, the man, the extraterrestrial, kept him alive, kept helping him. And so my client certainly came to really enjoy the visits with this man and to be very, very grateful for him. So that was one of the very interesting stories. But getting back to early life, some people are taken when they're even a baby in the hospital nursery. In other words, even a day or two after being born. And sometimes, of course, they're put in an incubator with the heating light on them, and they're very well cared for by the nurses in the nursery. But when an encounter like that happens, the nurses are what we call switched off. In other words, an extraterrestrial will come, might be 1 or 2 or 3 extraterrestrials, will come into the nursery and have that process like they do with people. Seems very easy for them to switch them off. In other words, to just be out of awareness, almost like being temporarily frozen. They don't move, they don't see anything, they don't hear anything. They're not harmed, they're just out of awareness while the newborn baby is being taken by these visiting beings and then returned eventually, maybe after an hour or so. And then the ETs, when they're just about to leave, they sort of undo that switching off, and the nurses sort of like open their eyes and come into awareness again, not even having known that the baby had been taken from the nursery. They hadn't known anything during that hour or so. And again, they're not harmed. They're just made purposely to not be aware that one of the babies was being taken away by very unusual beings. So infants are taken, and babies from home taken at any age of babyhood, and of course toddlers and children of all ages, and right on up through teenage years and adulthood, so that most people who may not really come to grips with the fact that they are having occasionally these extraterrestrial encounters, abductions as many people call them, they may not realize consciously that their own experiences began much earlier in life, very typically during childhood. But it's been really interesting to me in working with so many people who come as adults that during the work with me, particularly during one of the hypnotic regressions, as an adult, to an adult experience, during that regression, they will suddenly remember, oh, yeah, I'd totally forgotten that. I used to have experiences with this kind of being when I was a kid.
Wow.
Or once in a while, when I'm conducting a regression, I will say, like I'm having the person describe the beings that are there, and as much as they can, exactly what the beings look like, and of course what they're doing. And sometimes I will ask, are these beings familiar to you, or are any of them familiar to you at all? Do you think you've seen any of these before? And the person will often suddenly remember, oh yeah, that big tall kind, the big tall gray one, that type, or the big tall one who looks like a praying mantis. Yeah. Oh wow, I'd forgotten all about that. I used to see those when I was a child. And so then they'll begin to remember that childhood experience. And sometimes during that very same regression, we'll go back to whatever that childhood encounter was, so the person can really know more the details of that experience. And people are often really, really surprised that they started having those experiences so young in life. What they had been maybe aware of were a few experiences in their adult life, but now they're learning that actually they had them during childhood too. I think the childhood experiences have become increasingly important to me, intriguing to me, and because so many children don't remember very much about their experiences, usually just the first several moments. Or occasionally a child will have a little flashback and remembers something about being in a different place and unusual beings doing various things with them or around them. So they might remember that, just like a little flash here and there. But they often are aware of unusual beings coming into their room at night, and they will try to tell their parents about that the next morning.
Right. Barbara, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour, and I could just listen to you for days on end with what you have learned through all of these experiences. Barbara Lamb, psychotherapist, hypnosis regression therapist, ET contact, alien abductions. What's it like to sit with people who have had mysterious contact with aliens from a different era and being. This is awesome. This is just awesome.
Good.
So happy. So happy.
We're finally doing it.
I am just, very few times do I get giddy during this show, like a happy school child. Today is one of them. Good.
That is just great.
Mm-hmm. So many questions for you.
Oh, really? Already?
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to, when we continue, I'd like to continue about the children.
Yes.
Because that's the sort of the newest emphasis in my work. And I think that's very, very important because so many children do have these experiences.
Yes, for sure. We can definitely do that.
And I would like, if it's okay with you, I would like to mention my book for children.
Perfect.
A new book, newly published book.
Of course you can. You're giving us the time. You plug away on that. You plug away.
Good. I'm happy to do that. For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, gosh, Dave, you must have a really interesting life and learn so much as you do these interviews.
You know what? I have actually, over the last few weeks, pulled away from ufology. Not the subject, but the people. A lot of the people. I'm just so, lack of a better term, disgruntled with the way things are done in a lot of the places that I just want to concentrate on the topics now. It's not about the people or the conferences or who's chummying up to who or anything like that anymore. It's just,
right.
Yeah, it's just annoying. It really is.
Sure. Right, and that's the least important part of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, this incredible phenomenon is going on, and that's what's important, and how it's affecting the people who have these experiences. The researchers and all of that noogie-googie, that doesn't count. That's just human focus little stuff.
I agree. John Poe, $1,200 for Dave to shave his beard. I'll shave it tomorrow. My beard can be bought. Right?
Oh no!
I don't mind. Actually, I have to shave for tomorrow because our guest tomorrow is hearing impaired. So I have to shave so that way it's easier for her to read my lips.
Oh.
Yeah. Smoking Joe, I had a big beard down to here last year, Barbara. And
I saw on your website.
Yeah, and I had one of my listeners ask if I could shave because she read lips. Because of hearing impairment, she couldn't read my lips through my beard. And so I was like, that's it. That was the excuse I needed to get rid of my beard.
Yeah. Very good.
So, hi, Smoking Joe. Who else has arrived here late? There we go. I think we're all caught up. Gee, thanks, Kirk. Dave, don't shave. You'll look like a dork. Thanks, buddy.
You have very candid listeners.
Yeah, I'm saving you from my resident Neanderthals here in Fap and Vinny tonight because they are just they're hilarious. That's all I have to say is they make me laugh every night, and I can't pay attention to them because I'm trying to be serious tonight. Hi, Ozzy Michelle. You're looking lovely tonight. And Gnome Squatch, good to see you. Mandingo, thank you so much for that lovely super chat. Really do appreciate that. Hope things are going well for you over in New Zealand. And we have approximately 40 seconds. Want to say a big thank you to Mandingo and Black Dragon ×2 for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you so much. Thank you to all the veterans who are listening to this show. We love you, and you always have a safe home here checking out the Woo with us. And, of course, to all our regulars, including Fap and Vinny, who are just the most brutal tag team ever. But we love you anyways, and we thank you guys for hanging out with us. Really do appreciate it. We're going to continue on with the second half hour of the show coming up here in 3 seconds, so stay tuned. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with the legendary Barbara Lamb as we are talking about ET abductions, regressing. What kind of memories are us contactee humans putting way, way back in the backs of our brains, in those filing cabinets that are not supposed to be open? That is what her specialty is. And one of the topics you wanted to continue talking about, Barbara, as we continue here, is your work with children. Because more and more children, are they coming, more and more children saying they're having experiences?
Well, I think more and more adults are realizing that they had these ET experiences when they were children. And of course, current children, some of them are continuing to have these experiences. So what I became aware of through all of these years, 30 years now of doing this regression work with experiencers, is that children very often had no one to talk to about these encounters. So in other words, a child would be aware of having a strange visitor in the room at night and might be aware as much as having been taken away, usually right through the wall, harmlessly. And then they wake up the next morning and they start to tell their parents about this experience. And the parents will so often say, "Oh, that must have been a dream that you had," or, "Oh, that must be your vivid imagination," or, "Oh, that must have been your imaginary friend." So, which none of the above really applied because it was an actual experience. And so the child will say, no, it really happened. That little man or that gargoyle or that funny little guy, or however they describe them, was really there. But they know that they're not believed, in many cases, by the parents, and so they have no one to talk to. And they often then begin to doubt themselves, and then sometimes those memories get buried because they're not acknowledged, and they don't feel that they can talk about them without being made fun of. So that's kind of a lonely experience for a child. And that child will grow up and maybe go well through adulthood until maybe with a series of experiences and awarenesses, they will realize that, wow, I think I really have had these experiences and I want to look into it. That's why a lot of people come for regressions. So anyway, I've been very, very interested in children's experiences as well as people of any age. And so I met a wonderful woman named Mary Edwards, from San Francisco, and a beautiful artist, interior designer. And we collaborated together because she had this keen interest in children's having experiences too. So we collaborated a few months ago and put together a beautiful book for children called Children's or Kids Adventures with ET Friends in Space. So this is a book for children, Kids Adventures with ET Friends in Space. We refer to it as ET Friends. And these stories are of children's real life experiences from the work that I have done. They are not fiction. They're not make-believe stories. And so we have 18 different scenarios in the book, each one of a different kind of experience and with different kinds of beings. For instance, we have a little boy here who's taken from his bed in his pajamas, and he's on a spaceship in this picture, looking out a really big window with two different kinds of extraterrestrial beings. And he's looking out at a big planet, and in the distance is, lo and behold, planet Earth. And he is really excited. He's thrilled. So we have examples of a kid being healed and a child being taught to move things with his mind. Just that wonderful teleportation. And he's sitting in like a classroom in a round room with two adult extraterrestrials, and sitting in a circle on the floor with a couple of Earth children who've been taken for this occasion, and with a couple of extraterrestrial children and a couple of hybrid, ET human hybrid children. And so they're all learning these wonderful psychic skills and are really quite thrilled to be able to move a basketball, for instance, just simply by focusing their mind on it. And that is really true of a lot of children's experiences with these beings, that they are taught all kinds of wonderful psychic skills. And sometimes they try to use these psychic skills back here on Earth with other kids. And they, for instance, they come back, and in many cases, they are able to read other people's minds. Now, nobody else can read their minds, but they have the ability, the telepathic skill, and they can often try to communicate, pick up other people's thoughts. And they often have skills like being able to look at a person and know by sort of sensing and feeling and psychic intuition, how that person is really feeling. Like if that person really has a stomach ache, for instance, or a headache or a hurt leg, and yet they're not admitting it out loud. So anyway, these children often have healing abilities that they've been taught by the extraterrestrials. And that's definitely true of adults as well, that many of them are taught to be effective healers, and they bring that skill back into their lives here on Earth.
Wonderful.
I know a few adults who were having these extraterrestrial experiences and learned healing skills, but they weren't consciously aware of these particular experiences. And yet, in their lives, at a certain point, maybe in their 30s or 40s or 50s, that they quit their regular job, might have even been in a corporation or wherever. They quit their job even a really good job where they were moving up the ladder, and then went into establishing a healing practice for the rest of their working years. And then they discovered, through working with me, that they had been taught those healing skills by extraterrestrials on board the extraterrestrial ships. So it's been so exciting to see what people have learned about their extraterrestrial encounter.
Barbara, I would like to ask you a couple of questions, because with children, their minds are so pure, and at times they cannot understand adult problems from, their imagination. So my question is, how does a child decipher, and I saw this in the chat room from a couple people talking about this, so I don't want to take credit for this question, but how does a child decipher that maybe they're trying to cover up some sort of abuse, whether it's physical or sexual or mental abuse, with the idea that aliens are in my bedroom?
Well, there are certainly people who think that might be the case. There are the false memory foundation people, false memory syndrome people. A number of years ago, I'd say 15, 20 years ago, that association was very, very active, and they put a lot of attention into this alien abduction phenomenon, sort of projecting onto that phenomenon that they thought, that's their opinion, not mine, but they thought that a lot of these memories that children would have, thinking that they were extraterrestrial experiences, might have been actual sort of cover-up memories for having been molested or mistreated in some way by other humans, often another human in the same family. But in doing a regression, a very careful regression, and even sometimes going back over the same encounter 2 or 3 different times, and the same material comes out, that these were not humans they were interacting with. They were really other beings in a whole different environment, usually a round, pure white environment, very clinically clean, pristine, clean, and other beings. So it just, I can see why people would question that maybe it's sort of a false memory, and that maybe the abuse had happened by people, but I don't think that is the case, certainly in most cases. And then not only is there the fact that these children or adults remembering or regressing to their own childhood experiences, not only do they happen over and over, but it's the same people who grow up, same children, talking about these things, who grow up and continue to have experiences with extraterrestrial beings rather than with other humans. And I really need to rush forward and say that there has been a lot of bad press about extraterrestrial experiences. They are often referred to as alien abductions, as if this is a really negative, horrible, fearful thing. And some people do experience it that way. But what I have been amazed about, again and again, more than I've done at least 4,200 regressions to people's extraterrestrial experiences. So that's a lot of experiences.
Normally, I don't get to audience questions until hour 2, but considering we're kind of going down this road, C.R. Ruin is saying, what techniques do you use to rule out ideation of abuse? Also, familiar linkages to abuse. You know, the CR is not doubting your honesty and integrity on this, but, you know, when we're playing with children's minds or learning about what's inside a children's mind, I think there's always a conception that, you know, of danger there because it is a child and they're supposed to be innocent.
Yes. Well, in the regression, we are very, very careful. I go moment by moment by moment of the experience. And it seems like it is, as much as possible, a reliving of the details of the experience. Now, the reason that can happen is that we all have a subconscious part of our mind. And what I have been learning is that the subconscious part of our minds records absolutely everything, every moment of our experiences, even those experiences that we were not consciously aware of when they happened. So that refers to these kinds of experiences where we're not consciously in our lives aware they're happening. It's all recorded by the subconscious part of the mind and stored by the subconscious part of the mind and will be yielded to us, will come up in the mind of the person when we are very, very relaxed. That's the state of hypnosis, deep relaxation. And when the person asks for those details, asks to remember. So in one of these regressions, we go from the first moment of awareness that something unusual is happening, like somebody being there in the room, a being or unusual lights in the room, and then beings. And we go right through moment by moment as if the person is reliving it because it's all been recorded by the subconscious part of the mind. And so it's a very careful, slow process of going through moment by moment, detail by detail. And if in the regression, it seems like the person has sort of skipped over some moments, skipped over some details, I say, oh, just go back to wherever they left off and just be right there, go right through those moments exactly as they happened. And so we can pick up a lot of detail in that way. Now, after the regression is over, typically I ask the person, what do you make of that? Did that seem real to you, or did it seem like a fantasy to you, a dream? And the person will invariably say, no, it happened. Now I know it happened. I relived it. And so I think that that's the best we can do. Now, whether we can ever prove that in a court of law, that would be very difficult because it's a very personal, private experience, an inner experience for the person. But the point is that, from my point of view, as a therapist, this is a therapy procedure. We're not trying to prove anything to the public or to anybody else in these regressions. This is for the person to know if they want to know the details, and then be able to come to grips with it, to integrate it, to be able to go on better in their lives, having integrated this experience, rather than this as being an experience that's buried in the subconscious part of their mind and perhaps really bothering them because they sensed that something weird, strange has happened, but they don't know what it is. So person after person whom I have regressed says afterwards, I'm so relieved to know. I always knew that something strange happened, but I didn't know what it was, so I was so much more afraid of it than I am now that I know. So I think it's really worth doing. It's really worth finding out about and taking care with. And again, I go back to saying that there's been a lot of negative information spread around about these extraterrestrial encounters. And I can certainly understand why. But what many people do not realize, and I have come to realize for doing all this work, that many of these experiences, even if they seem very strange and frightening to the person at first, they turn out to be beneficial for the person. And that's why it's really helpful to find the details. For instance, a person in a regression, in an encounter, might find himself lying on a hard, cold, medical type of table in a curved room, lots of bright light, these very strange beings standing around. And he might experience being poked and probed, and samples are taken of his skin and fluids and hair and so on. And he's maybe not happy with that, of course, who would be, especially since he didn't ask for it. Not like going to the doctors where we know that's going to happen and we know it's worthwhile. But anyway, it turns out that in many of those examinations by those beings, that some real help comes out of it for the person. So sometimes the beings, in poking and probing and scraping and doing whatever they do, will tell the person, we can detect that you have a problem, let's say, with your liver or your heart or your spleen or whatever organ they detect a problem in. And so the beings will say, when you are home again, it would be very important for you to go to your own doctor and have them look into that and help you with that. So you see, that is actually a help to the person who may not have even known that that strange sensation they had somewhere in their abdomen was that specific problem. And even more remarkable is that many times a person lying on the ship on the medical type table with the unusual beings standing around doing various things, they will realize that the beings are actually healing them of something. And they usually use some form of light. It might be like a roller of light coming over them, or kind of like a big flashlight of light shining on their body, or it might be that they're surrounded with light, supported with light, even being suspended in light. Had that in a couple of cases. And so anyway, they are healed, and they often will be told by the beings what they are being healed of. So many of the people I've regressed actually know that they had a really serious physical problem, and then suddenly one morning, not knowing that they had had one of these experiences, one morning they would wake up and they feel completely wonderful. And they may go to the doctor, and the doctor will say, well, you did have that serious problem,
right?
And you don't.
Barbara, I got to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Barbara Lamb is here, everyone, talking regression of children, adults, when it comes to ET contact, alien abductions. So many questions for the lovely and talented Barbara Lamb, who has been doing this since 1991. 30 years. Hard to believe. We'll be back. Barbara, I'm just going to run my dogs outside. I'll be right back, okay? So I'm going
and I'll take a bathroom break.
All right, I'm going to put you on mute here. Be right back, people. Fap and Vinny play nice with the other great people in the chat room. All right, I am back. Who else has joined us here? Well, let's see here. Chris Kringle, where you been hiding? Starting to make your toys for the winter or what? Let us know. I got a beard for you, Kurt Seltzer, if you need one. I do. B. Hoff, how you doing? Chris Mo, how you doing, buddy? Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, Barbara is fantastic. I want to say a big thank you to Vinster, Mandingo, and Black Dragon ×2 for the amazing super chats. And thank you so much for the love and support, guys. Thank you to all the veterans who are listening to this show. You always have a safe home here on Spaced Out Radio and in our chat room. And, of course, to all the regulars in here hanging on out with us on a nightly basis. And we appreciate that. And we got about 25 seconds. And, of course, Barbara's here with us. JJ 7-Star, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And Shar, I don't have enough time to sing happy birthday to you, but happy birthday, my dear friend. I hope you had a good one. I really do. And here we go, everyone. Sit tight. Here comes hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that if you are checking us out, you can check us out on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kithoge. Kithoge is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradios.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with legendary UFO and ET abduction researcher Barbara Lamb. She has had more than 2,000 people who claim to be ET abductees or contactees under hypnosis and regression therapy with amazing results. And right before the break, we were talking about her ability to deal with children in these subjects and those who recall being children being taken as well. Barbara, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
I want to ask you regarding the whole hypnosis and regression therapy, because there is so much controversy regarding this subject on whether or not it is ethical to be doing this, because so many other researchers have been caught misleading or misguiding those who are under hypnosis with these types of thoughts. How do you keep it on the straight and narrow to know you are getting proper results?
Well, I'm always very careful to not suggest anything. And I consider myself a guide through the process. And the process completely belongs to the person who's come to me. So my function is to guide them into that wonderful state of deep relaxation so they can let the memories come up from the subconscious part of their mind. And I simply ask questions through the whole process, very neutral questions, such as, what are you aware of now? And the person might say, I see 3 beings standing in the room. So they've already volunteered that. And then I will say, oh, well, what do they look like? And what are they doing? What are they doing now? What are you aware of now? And in other words, I don't presuppose anything or suggest anything. I simply ask questions to bring out more details from the person's awareness. And those questions seem to be very helpful because it brings their attention to knowing more and more detail. And incidentally, I learned early on that the more details that the person could focus on about the beings and the environment and what was happening in that environment, the more details that they were aware of, the less traumatic it was. In other words, it sort of gave them a different perspective. Instead of feeling totally victimized, it was almost as if they were investigating it in a more objective way at the same time. So the person would always appreciate remembering those details and remembering them afterwards. Now, I always ask the person if they would like to record the regression session. And I used to do it with audio tapes and give them the tape right afterwards. It was theirs. I never saw it again. I would take, very exact notes, so I'd have something from my own record. But anyway, this would give the person the opportunity to replay that recorded tape, and in other words, hear the whole session over again. And now I do it with a person's cell phone, or sometimes they'll bring a video camcorder to record the session. Anyway, I always encourage people to record it so that they can listen again. And also part of that is so that they will see that I am not leading them. I am not planting suggestions in their mind as they go through the regression. And that's very, very important, that the details that come up really are their own authentic experience and not something that I am projecting upon them. So I think anybody doing this work needs to be really, really careful about that. And I am very careful about that. Anyway, that's a very good question because it's easy to wonder if these experiences are real and accurate, particularly when they're as unusual to our way of understanding reality as these experiences are. I hope that answers the question.
It absolutely does help answer that question, and I really appreciate you answering it, because I mean, you wouldn't be in the game as long as you have with zero people trying to call you out for faking evidence or perjuring your clients or anything along those lines. So I'm very comfortable with you saying that. That being said, I hear in your voice a lot of very good, positive ET contact experiences that your clients have relayed to you. But we always hear the dark side of everything, the anal probing, the hybridization pain that women go through with false pregnancies. How often are you having to deal with these?
Very often. And of course, from our perspective, the conscious perspective of us humans, these are really disturbing experiences. There's no way around that. I can't argue against that. And yet, there's always another side to the same issue. That there is a reason given for what these beings do. And the reasons given by them for these procedures that they do really makes sense once we know about them. When we don't know about them, we just think, oh my gosh, we're being totally victimized and this is horrible, But so let's take the subject of the hybridization. That's a very important aspect of this whole subject. So the extraterrestrials do take people, they do take eggs from women, they do take sperm from human men, and they do mix those together with their material, their DNA, and maybe even components of their reproductive material, and they combine those into a little embryo, and then they will implant that in the woman on another occasion, and she will become pregnant, and she will carry that baby for a month and a half, or 2 months, or 2.5 months, and during which time she is pregnant, and that's usually validated by a doctor. She really is pregnant. That really is happening, and maybe she doesn't know how that happened. Maybe she hasn't been with a man for a long, long time, and it just doesn't make any sense that she could suddenly be pregnant. Or maybe she's married, and it does make sense that she's pregnant, and she assumes it's just completely from her own husband. But in any event, here she is, she's pregnant, and the doctor verifies it, and she gets all those early feelings of being pregnant. And then suddenly, one day, she wakes up not knowing necessarily that she had one of these experiences the night before, but she wakes up and she just feels different. She doesn't feel pregnant, and after a few days of still not feeling pregnant, she'll go to the doctor, and the doctor will say, no, you're not pregnant. I don't know what happened. And did you have a miscarriage, or did you have an abortion? And she'll say, no, I didn't do anything like that. And he'll say, well, sometimes the embryo will just break away from the lining of the uterus and get absorbed into the rest of the system. And that's what they assume probably happened. But that isn't what happened. What happened is that she was taken again, and this little embryo, having gestated for a month and a half to 2.5 months, is taken from her and put into a special tank. It looks like a glass tank full of fluid, and that little embryo develops for a number of months, the way that our babies gestate in our wombs, and then the baby is taken out of the tank. In other words, is quote unquote born, and then will be wrapped up in swaddling clothes and raised there on the ship. And in most cases, that baby will continue his or her whole life on the ship as a hybrid being that is half human and half extraterrestrial. So we know that that happens, and we know that if that hybrid will grow to maturity enough to combine with another human, one way or the other, that offspring will be 2/3 human and 1/3 hybrid. And that can go on for a number of generations, especially since the reproduction can happen, when a being or a person is a teenage person, sexually mature enough. And so then the generations become more and more human, and yet still with a good proportion of extraterrestrial in them. Now, most of the hybrids do remain on the ship, and they may look fairly human to the people who are taken to the ship. And yet on closer look, they usually realize, oh, no, that person isn't really quite human. I thought he was, but as I look more closely, not quite. There's something different. Maybe his eyes or the shape of his head or something. His features, his body type. Anyway, those hybrid beings usually remain on the ship, and they very often work right along with the extraterrestrials. Sometimes, perhaps, they're taken to live on the planet that those beings have come from. But it seems like they rarely come here and live here. They would not be human enough to withstand our viruses and bacteria and so forth, our way of eating, our food. And so they usually don't live here. But there's another whole category of ET human hybrids, and I have been very involved in this as well, and have written a book about that with a wonderful man from England named Miguel Mendonça, and this book is called Meet the Hybrids, The Lives and Missions of ET Ambassadors on Earth. By the way, all of my 4 books are available on Amazon and on my website. I signed copies on my website, which is BarbaraLambRegressions.com. BarbaraLambRegressions.com. And so these hybrids are people who, the ones living on Earth with us as regular humans, but they're still hybrids. They were born here, and they've lived their whole lives here. So they're born from a normal mother and a normal father, but they were hybridized in some cases when they were in their mother's womb, and sometimes they were hybridized when they, or before conception. So what that means is that the extraterrestrials took the eggs from the mother and the sperm from the father, human mother, human father, took that onto the ship and mixed it with their DNA and their reproductive material, creating a little embryo. And then on a subsequent occasion, they implanted that embryo in the human mother. So this is similar to the process I've already described about the hybrids who stay on the ship. But in this case, they do not take that embryo from the mother after a couple of months. They leave that embryo there. The mother carries that baby, hybridized baby, full term, and gives birth to that baby the way that we humans normally do that. Another method is that when the wife, the mother, is carrying the baby in the womb, maybe about the 6th or 7th or 8th month, the woman is taken onto the ship and given an inoculation with the DNA of the extraterrestrials. This inoculation goes right through the wall of her abdomen, through the wall of the uterus, and into the growing fetus. And that fetus becomes a hybrid at that point, and then is born full term as a hybrid. Now, those hybrids who are living here on Earth are excellent, excellent people, wonderful beings. They look and act and appear and completely human, but they do have some extraterrestrial DNA in them. The hybrids I have come to know really well have the DNA of more than one species. They have the DNA of maybe 4 or 5 or 6 different kinds of extraterrestrial species. And these are species of extraterrestrials that are working together regularly, very cooperatively, hopefully. So the person who is a hybrid has the DNA from that many different types of extraterrestrials. So these hybrids, as I said, are born here and grow up here, live their whole lives here, except that they're taken frequently onto the UFOs by the beings whose DNA they have. And they really welcome these visits and these trips to the ship because they're on very, very benevolent, loving terms with these beings. And they've been told by the beings that they have their DNA in them. So they are partly these other species of beings. So they have a really benevolent relationship, very, very positive. And the purpose for all of this kind of hybridization is that these kinds of extraterrestrials, a number of different species of them, are very benevolent, very caring about humanity, and very caring about the earth. And these beings would like very much to come and help us on the earth. They'd like to raise the consciousness of humanity, raise the perspective of us humans. And they cannot come here and do that themselves because they would not be able to survive here, nor would they be accepted here by other humans. So they do the next best thing, which is to create these hybrids who will be functioning completely as humans and be much more enlightened than the average human, that's for sure. So they come here to help humanity, and they do this by teaching classes and working individually with people and giving workshops and writing books and writing articles and all of this to help humans to develop higher consciousness and higher spirituality. They also function as a bridge, a link between other humans and these extraterrestrial species out there in space. So they really love to educate people about these beings, especially the really benevolent, unconditionally loving beings. And they really are working their whole lives healing people, communicating with the animals, teaching, upgrading, inspiring people. And they really live very wonderful, serviceable lives. I think that we usually don't hear about that type of hybrid. We tend to hear about the ones that seem very, very creepy and odd-looking and who live on the ships. And it is thought by some people that they do manage to, if there are enough generations down the line of a hybrid being, that they might even live here amongst us, seeming maybe a little bit different, but human enough to pass for being a human. But it's wonderful to know that there are some very, very benevolent hybrids and very benevolent beings. And of course, we know that there are some of the extraterrestrial beings that are much more self-serving and seem to us to be very mean and intrusive and do negative things. And that does exist. There are some species like that. I certainly am not overlooking that. But I like to broaden the perspective from that complete negative view about the extraterrestrial phenomenon.
Barbara, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. ET hybrids, ET contact, alien abduction. What is it all about? What does it mean? Are there patterns between each and every one of us being taken? Barbara Lamb is here. And we'll continue the discussion on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we are clear.
Okay. You know, if it's okay with you, it might be interesting to get into talking about another very interesting group of people who are walk-ins.
Sure.
That all relates to this phenomenon as well. And
absolutely.
That's part of my work.
Sure.
Yeah, you probably don't have people coming on talking about hybrids and walk-ins, do you?
Not too often. Hybrids, yes. Walk-ins, not so much. Quick hello here to Reborn from Ash. Good to see you. Cy Tyson, welcome back. And Jazz, isn't it your bedtime? Mom's going to be mad, Jazz. Mom's going to be mad. And Jennifer has a beautiful comment. Barbara is a pretty lady.
Thank you.
It's all good. Michelle Rose, new to our chat room. She's from New Brunswick. I so wish I could have heard you speak 20 years ago when I had no context for anything that was going on. Just glad to be here and more aware now.
Oh, bless you. Bless you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good for you, Michelle. Keep on learning.
Yes, us good Canadian ET contactees got to stick together.
Good.
Right. Lori Rosenfield, how are you? And yeah, we got a good crowd tonight. Good crowd.
Good.
Having fun?
I am.
Good.
I love to talk about this subject.
Oh, me too.
It's so fascinating to me. And it's so important. And it's been so hidden, that it's just wonderful to bring it out.
Joan Dillon, welcome to our chat room. Thank you for joining us. The big question that I want to find out for me, if I were to get selfish for a minute, is I would really, really like to go and find out why me. Because I lived a beautiful, happily boring life until I hit 38 years old.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
It's a very a wonderful question.
Yeah, I think I would pack it in after figuring out that answer. No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. That's a lie.
No.
That's a lie. I got to fly a ship first.
And some of my clients have.
I believe
or
that.
Do. Really? That's been
I
so
believe.
exciting.
I actually met. I used to do this ghost tour at our local museum pre-COVID.
Oh.
And I had a mother and her two daughters come on our tour. And after the tour, the mother comes up and she's like, "Hey, I was just wondering if I could talk to you for a second because my daughter sees a lot of stuff." So I was like, "Sure." And I'm a firm believer, and a lot of people may not believe me, don't really care. But I'm a firm believer that once you're a contactee, just by looking at someone, you could tell whether or not they're a contactee because they give off a certain look or energy that goes along with it.
I think the energy is the main thing there. Yeah. Good for you.
So I started talking to this young 12-year-old girl, and then all of a sudden it just hit me. And I was like, "Do you have any friends from the stars?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she goes, how do you know that? I said, I just know.
That was a good way to ask it.
And I said, what do they look like? She goes, well, they got the big black eyes and everything. I'm like, cool. I said, I've seen them too. And so then I said to her, I all of a sudden I got like this trigger in my head, ask her about flying the ship. So I said to her, I said, when's the last time you flew the ship? And she jumped back, big wide-eyed, like a kid can, and she starts nervously laughing, and she's like, how did you know? I said, I just knew. I said, when was the last time? She goes, 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So I want to fly the ship. If a 12-year-old can fly the ship, damn it, I want to fly the ship. Hold on, Barbara. Here we go. Second half of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are in this beautiful planet we call Earth. And we want to remind you that all of our archives are free. All you got to do is go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We welcome back tonight Barbara Lamb. She is probably the top psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, regression therapist when it comes to alien abductions, ET contact in North America. She is that brilliant. She has been doing this since 1991, and the stories she has under her belt, I can just imagine when it comes to all of this. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
I want to get into the fact that so many people claim that they are having dealings or seeing or becoming these walk-ins. This is such a difficult topic for people to understand and believe is real. First off, explain to us what a walk-in is. And second, how do we know whether or not this is happening to us?
Aha. Oh, what an intriguing bunch of questions. Well, a walk-in is a soul that has actually made a soul exchange with a person living here. So I'll explain further. So there is a person living life, and that person might be in his or her 30s or 40s or 50s, and yet just doesn't feel like he or she needs to be here anymore in life. In other words, maybe life has had some interesting features in it, but the person has just gotten to a point where, what's the point? What's the point of my still being here? They're not necessarily suicidal, but they've lost interest in being in life. And sometimes they have physical problems that are sometimes discouraging, sometimes not. So there's this person on Earth in that kind of situation, that sort of feeling. Now, in the meantime, there is a soul. That soul might be living as an extraterrestrial, or it might be a soul in the spiritual realm, the spiritual dimension. And that soul wants to come to Earth to do some really good, helpful work on Earth. And that soul doesn't want to go through the whole process of 9 months in a mother's womb and being born and going through infancy and childhood and teenage years and young adulthood. That soul would like to come and be able to much sooner get into the work that they want to do here, which is always a benevolent kind of work. So those two souls find each other in the ethers, shall we say, and they make an agreement that the soul of the person on earth living here who doesn't want to be here anymore, that soul will agree to leave the body when the other soul who wants to be here will come in. So we call that a soul exchange. So at an appointed time, usually it's in the nighttime, but doesn't necessarily have to be, the two souls will get together. The soul in the body here will leave the body at the same moment that the incoming soul will come into the body, will replace that body with a different soul, a different consciousness. Now, the outgoing soul is fine. We'll just continue on in the spirit realm like we do after physically dying. So that's okay. And then the incoming soul gets to live the rest of the life of that body here on earth. So the incoming soul has quite a huge, incredible adjustment to make, coming from the spirit realm or having been an extraterrestrial, coming into a body with a full life here on earth. And of course, the original person whose body this new soul has come into has had a whole life, and maybe children, and maybe a spouse, and work, and a home, and responsibilities. So the new soul coming in inherits all that and has to adjust. Tremendous adjustment. It's incredible for me to really think about the details of that adjustment that soul has to make to carrying on the life of that original person in that physical body with those relationships, home, everything in that original person's life. So they do adjust, and often that takes, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years. And if there are physical problems in that original person's body, those problems are still there. And the new soul coming in has to go through various processes to heal those problems and then to go on with the work that soul came in here to do. So I know probably 20 people or maybe more whom I am convinced are walk-ins. And they are all here doing very, very inspiring, helpful work here on earth with other people. Some of them are doing some remarkable healing work. Some are doing teaching work. Some are doing spiritual work. Some are doing a combination of benevolent kinds of work. So after the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years of adjustment into the life that they've taken on, they usually find that they can get more fully into their work. So they will go ahead and raise the children, if the original person was raising children, and seeing them through to adulthood. And if the original person was in a marriage, which everyone was whom I know about, the incoming soul usually is so different than the original person that those marriages that the original person had just don't work out anymore. That, like the husband or the wife is just saying, wow, you have just changed. You're not just don't seem like the person I was married to. You look the same, but you're so different. You're about really different kind of life and lifestyle and work and interests. So very often those marriages just are not able to continue. And the walk-in goes on and does whatever work that walk-in came to do, and maybe not, will eventually take on another husband who's more of the same consciousness. So anyway, I think it's a really good thing that these walk-ins are here totally to help.
I want to ask you, regarding these walk-ins, what type of changes do people around this walk-in person see? Is it the way they act? Is it their, like, maybe they were very outgoing, become now introverted? Because I'm curious to know how, if it happened to me, how would I know it happened to me? Would I know?
Oh, great question. Yes, you might be really, really confused at first. I mean, it might be totally baffling, like, everything seems so strange to me. I don't know what happened, what's going on. But gradually, you would come to realize that you'd come to remember, that's part of it, that you had come from a very different realm. And now it's really different, and you're adjusting to everything. The first walk-in I ever was aware of, and this was somebody else's client, one of my past life therapy regression colleagues, had this situation. This was back in 1991. I was learning about this from her. She had a client who came to her because she was having allergic reactions to almost everything, to every plant, every grass, to dust, to pillows, feathers, to most items of food and drink. I mean, it just, and that all happened very suddenly. And through a lot of therapy and regression work, they realized that she was allergic to everything because she had come from, the soul had come from a very, very different realm. Well, that was my first awareness back in 1990, that there is such a thing as a walk-in. And then gradually over the years, I met other people. So the second one was, and this might answer your question more, the second one was a young woman in Colorado. I met her parents and her at a UFO conference in Wyoming. This was about 1993, I think. And I met the parents first, and they were telling me that they were very confused because they had this wonderful daughter who was very interested in sports and popular music and all the popular trends of a young woman. And that suddenly, one day, the daughter was completely different. And she was speaking about spiritual things and how she wanted to run a metaphysical bookstore and teach classes. Well, this was really different than anything her daughter had ever expressed interest in. So they lived with this for a while, and they helped the daughter to leave the job that she had and give away all of her music records and CDs and even the kind of clothing she had, and helped her because she persisted in this wish to find a place to establish a metaphysical bookstore. And I met them after that had been accomplished. So the parents were still very puzzled. How could their daughter overnight have changed so completely, almost like a new person? They felt like she wasn't really their daughter anymore. She was somebody else, and yet she looked exactly the same. So then, on that same weekend conference, I met the daughter, and we did a regression. And she went through the process in the regression of having come from an extraterrestrial being living on a spaceship, as she had been, to making the soul exchange with this young woman in Colorado. And she realized, in order to increase the spirituality of human beings. And that's why she wanted to run a metaphysical bookstore and a center where she could give classes. So I saw her a couple of years later at that same conference in Wyoming, and we did another regression. And by that time, she was very busy, involved in running a metaphysical bookstore and giving classes about spirituality and metaphysics. And in that regression, as she was teaching a class in the extra room of her metaphysical bookstore, while she was teaching the class, she looked out the window and she saw a tall, thin being standing out there.
Wow.
And she immediately recognized that being as being her father. So she called a break, like a little recess, in her class so that she could go out and be with this being. And it was a very happy reunion because that being was her extraterrestrial father who had been on the ship with her. And she had a very, very happy reunion with him. And he was very pleased to see that she was doing, as a walk-in, what she had been wishing to do in living and working on Earth. So that was a wonderful confirmation for her about where she had come from. And in that regression, she also had a lot of very detailed memories of having been one of the beings like him, an extraterrestrial being on the ship, and what she was doing, what the work was she was doing on the ship. So there are many stories like this. And then there was a woman in the San Fernando Valley of Southern California whom I met. I met in her home. Somebody else knew her and took me there to meet her. And she was a walk-in, as it turns out. She had come not from an extraterrestrial realm, but she had come from a spiritual realm because she really wanted to help humans to become more spiritually attuned. Now, the person whose body she did the exchange with had been a person who was kind of a woman who was kind of rough and tumble and sportsy, and she was married to a motorcycle-loving guy, and they were part of a couple's motorcycle group. And every weekend they would go on these wonderful motorcycle trips and camp out and drink beer and eat hot dogs and just have a rowdy, wonderful time. That was the consciousness of that original person who left when the walk-in came in. Well, this walk-in, when I went to meet her, she was dressed in long white clothes and some kind of flowers in her hair, and was looking very sweet and very spiritually oriented. And yet she had this wonderful redneck motorcycle beer-loving guy as a husband. And he just couldn't understand why his wife suddenly one day, not knowing about the soul exchange, of course, why his wife was suddenly so different and didn't want to do anything with motorcycle, didn't want to drink beer, didn't want to eat hot dogs, wanted to be vegetarian, wanted to wear these long white pure clothes and to do spiritual practices and teach people about spirituality. So I met them when she'd only been here about 3 months, and the marriage was really having difficulty, as you can imagine. And subsequent to that, they did separate and divorce. And she went on with her work, and he presumably went on with his lifestyle. They just couldn't get that together. So that is one of the situations that happens with many walk-ins. And then now it's interesting that walk-ins, when they come into a body, they have, because they have the brain of that person they exchange with, they have the memories of that original person, all the memories from childhood onward. However, they don't have any feeling attached to those memories. So a relative of the person who left might say, "Oh, do you remember when we were 6 years old and we went to that lake and we caught a frog?" And the walk-in might have that memory, but not have any feeling of excitement about it, like the cousin had. No feeling about it whatsoever. And that's how it is in reviewing the life of that person. Just no feeling of attachment. It's just sort of a cognitive thing, but no feeling relating to it, because after all, it wasn't really their experience.
Right. Barb, a lot of questions coming in from the chat room. What really happened to the real girl and the wife? What happened?
Oh, the real girl in the white clothes?
Yeah.
Well, she just went on to teach classes and hold spiritual services and do the work that she came to do. And I think with all of the walk-ins whom I have come to know, that sooner or later, it might take a few years to make all of that adjustment and to really get in touch with what they're here for. But they do go on to actually do the mission work that they came to do. So that's a wonderful thing. And as far as anybody else is concerned, anybody who would meet them, is that they're a regular person, usually a very intelligent, very talented person, teaching, guiding, counseling, doing whatever they're doing. And so they're very highly respected people. And then the people in the original person's life, they may, friends and relatives, they might possibly sort of back off a little bit because the person had changed so much, with the walk-in present in the
Right.
and they don't know that the person's a walk-in. All they know is that, whoa, this person really has changed tremendously and doesn't seem to be the same person, even though he or she looks like the same person and has some of the same memories and connections. So it's an odd situation,
Right.
but it makes wonderful sense, I think. You see, I think that we are all souls, basically, and continuingly. We're ongoing, continuing souls. And then we choose now and then to go into a lifetime. And then we die. We go back into the spirit realm where we're very, very conscious and aware and awake. And then after varying lengths of time, we'll decide to come back into another lifetime.
Very
and that's
cool.
kind of a slow process because of having to develop in the mother's womb and go through infancy and childhood and teenage years before we can really, really get to our purpose for having this lifetime. So it's a shortcut way of getting here by using the walk-in process.
I can see that. Barb, I'm going to get you to stomp right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour, and we have Barbara Lamb for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio before we kick off the bottom of the hour in hour number 3, where I'm going to start warming up the Magic 8 Ball because the 8 Ball is going to make some psychic predictions for those in our chat rooms tonight. Not on the radio side. Well, the radio side will tune in. But you can't ask a question when you're on the radio. Barbara Lamb, everybody. BarbaraLambRegressions.com is the website. More with this legendary psychotherapist on Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. There we go. We're clear.
Oh, good. Well, I hope this is interesting to your listeners.
Oh, yeah, they're having a great time.
Good. I am too.
Good. So knowledgeable. Do you want to get into crop circles this half hour?
Sure.
We've had a lot of questions about that.
Oh,
so
love to do that. Love crop circles.
I've never seen one. I want to. Oh, excuse me. I would love to, but I've never seen one.
Well, maybe you still could when we can all hopefully travel again to other countries.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be the day.
Yeah.
That'll be the day. You know, when everything is back to normal.
Well, I hope so.
Me too. Me too.
Got to keep working toward that.
I hear you. I hear you. Let's see. Are you speaking at any conferences yet this year?
Yes, I'm going to. I've just done about 4 of them, but I'm going to be speaking at a conference put on by Portal to Ascension, October 1st through 4th. And I know I'm going to be speaking at the Arkansas UFO Conference in the middle of April, next April. And I'm sure that there are others coming along as well. There always are. But those are the 2 that are definitely pinned down and committed to.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Nowadays, they're mostly done online. And so it's so easy. There's no traveling or anything, but I'm accustomed to traveling all over the place, even other countries for speaking at conferences.
Right. You know what? It just doesn't feel the same to me. Does not feel the same to me, you know, doing these virtual ones. Just feels like there's something missing.
Well, we're definitely missing the excellent personal contact with people. But so I was at a conference in June, the UFO Mega Conference. I was a speaker and led the experiencer groups. So that was all in person in Laughlin, Nevada. And it felt so good after a whole year or so of not actually being with other people in a conference. But that's the only one. Well, no, there was another one in South Dakota I was part of in July. But because of the travel difficulties, I did my lecture on Zoom.
Right.
Rather than traveling, just because of, all the COVID restrictions and difficulties with that. We decided it would be best if I just did it online. So that was good.
Yeah, I can hear you there.
It is wonderful to be with people who are exploring the same interests, in person. I mean, so much sharing goes on about that when you can be in person with them.
I
just get to know them, which we can't do so well online, that's for sure.
Definitely. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Good that you're keeping a busy schedule up.
Yeah, I do regressions almost every day and interviews and lectures.
That's awesome.
I feel very, very blessed, because these are my older years, but boy, are they interesting.
Hey, why not? Why not?
Yeah.
It's all about the fun, man. It's all about the fun.
Yeah, there's so much to be interested in. I feel for people who just don't have any curiosity, don't have any interest. And they miss so much. They miss so much stimulation.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. We have about 90 seconds, just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah. That is awesome. I'm having such a good time tonight. Thank you.
Good. I am too. I'm glad you are, because you do this so often.
Oh, every night. Here I am.
Every night of the week?
Monday through Friday.
Wow, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness.
Yes. Gee. Well, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, I'm a night owl and I'm an introvert, so this just kind of works.
I'm a night owl too. That's why there's no problem with doing a late evening thing.
Oh, I hear you there. I hear you there. Well, let's see if there's anybody new in our chat room. No, just skip to Malou. And let's see here. All right, so I want to say a big thank you to Aussie Steve, Vinster, Mandingo, and Black Dragon ×2 for the amazing super chats. Thank you so much for your love and support of this show. Really appreciate it. And YJ, if you're tuned in, we still love you. Still love you, man. Where are you? Where are you? Show me the love back. And, of course, to all our veterans listening in, you always have a home here at Spaced Out Radio in our chat room. And to our regulars, you make it so much fun. Thank you so much. Here we go with hour number 3, everyone.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do we got here, Clam? Kitog. Kitog is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce legendary UFO ET experiencer researcher Barbara Lamb. She has been doing this for the last 30 years, regressing humans regarding ET contact and abduction. But she has another specialty. She is a jack of all trades, shall we say. And now we're going to get into one of her favorite subjects, crop circles. Her website, barbaralamregressions.com. Barbara, welcome back.
Thank you. And you are so right. I am very enthused about the crop circle phenomenon.
How did you get started on that?
Well, in 1990, I went to a big event called the Whole Life Expo. And that's an event where they have lots and lots of speakers and many, many different subjects. And I looked in the program guide and I saw, instead of the speaker's picture, I saw a funny little pattern. I didn't know what it was. And I looked at the title of that lecture that had still not happened yet, and it said something like Mysterious Patterns in the Fields of Britain. Anyway, when I read that, I immediately felt this big burst of light exploding within myself. That's what it felt like. And I immediately thought, oh, we're being communicated with from those out there. Now, this was, 10, well, no, yeah, this was before I got into the extraterrestrial regression work, 1 year before. Anyway, I exploded with light. That was the feeling, and decided I've got to go hear about that. So I went to that lecture and saw lots of pictures of the 1990 crop circles and saw some video footage of them, listened to the lecture, and halfway through, I found myself slapping my own thigh and saying to myself, that's it. Next summer, I'm going to England to check that out, which I did. That was 1991, my first year of visiting crop circles. And during that summer, visiting crop circles and meeting some of the excellent crop circle researchers who lived in England in most cases, I became absolutely intrigued with the phenomenon and decided that, okay, that's it. I'm in, meaning I'm going to be interested in this the rest of my life. So every summer for 17 summers, 27 summers, I went every year to England to research the crop circles. And after a few years, people were starting to ask me, can I come with you, please, to see the crop circles? Because I came back and gave a lot of lectures and showed a lot of slides about these beautiful crop circles. So more and more people were asking if they could come with me. So I started leading groups. So for about, 15 years or so, every summer I had organized and would lead a group to visit the crop circles. And we would all stay in the same place, and I would drive a big van full of people and get a friend to drive another van, and we would visit as many crop circles as we could during that week or so. Anyway, the crop circle patterns are really amazing. And they've been happening for quite a long time. Really, some very simple circles started appearing in the fields of growing crops like wheat and barley and oilseed canola, even corn, and a few other shorter crops too, started appearing in the 1970s, just one, and then maybe another one that season in another county. Anyway, they seem to be very attracted to appearing in the English fields, and that indeed is where most of the crop circles have been happening during all of these years until this year, 2021, when the crop circles appeared more in France and less in England. But anyway, all of these years, starting in the early 1980s, attention started to be really put into this phenomenon of the crop circles, and they've been getting more and more advanced and complicated, symbolic, meaningful every year along the way, and they're still happening, which is wonderful. So people, of course, wonder where the crop circles come from, like who makes them. Well, there are some people who go out in the fields at night, little teams of usually men, and they will make a crop circle. But there's a big difference between their crop circles and the majority of the crop circles, which we consider genuine or real. And that means that they're made by some other source, some other phenomenon, which is obviously a very intelligent, artistic phenomenon. Many of us feel that the makers of the crop circles must be from off planet, that they may very well be what we consider extraterrestrial beings. Other people consider, well, maybe it's some kind of universal intelligence, not necessarily extraterrestrial beings. And the fact is that we really don't know for sure. But there have been some witnessings of crop circles, which give us some definite clues. Some people have seen a beam of light coming down into a field of growing crop. Usually that is seen at nighttime when there's a vivid contrast between the dark sky, the dark field, and a beam of light coming from far above. But also it has happened that a beam of light coming down from above has been seen during the daytime, and it's been seen that the beam of light seems to be swirling around the crop in a particular area. And subsequently, it's noticed that there's a new crop circle there. So beams of light seem to be involved in some of the crop circles, and some people have witnessed orbs of light, balls of light, skimming along not very high above the top of the growing crop, and the crop is laid down into a crop circle. And it's also been witnessed that the crop has been witnessed by people as if there's a riffling of wind coming across a field in a particular area, and then stopping, and the crop is being swirled down to the ground by something unseen. Something seems to be invisible. And then the wind seems to be retracting to the edge of the field. And there's a new crop circle there where it had been seen swirling down the crop. So that's an invisible something. And then there have been times when groups of people have heard a sound, almost an electrostatic type of sound, and a ringing, sort of a ringing electrostatic sound coming across a field, stopping, making more of the noise, and then retreating. And then in the light of day, it's been noticed that there's a new crop circle where that sound seemed to stop. So it seems like there are a few different methods in which the crop circles are made. But the main thing is that the crop circle phenomenon, as it's been continuing all of these years, especially since 1990, are made in what seem to be very deliberate, specific patterns. And often, in fact, most likely, including some really exceptional, precise geometries. And some of the crop circles are geometrically very perfect and very complex. And some others of the crop circles seem to be more like symbolic patterns. For instance, we've had crop circles in the shape of a cross, a Christian cross, or an Arabic symbol, or a Jewish symbol like the menorah and the Kabbalah tree of life symbol, and many, many other symbols too, astronomical symbols. And many of the crop circles have been sort of predictors of astronomical events that will happen, like solar eclipses or moon eclipses or solar cycles or moon cycles, just to give a few of the many examples. So that many of the crop circles seem to be recognizable symbols, indicating something that we know about. And some of them are just incredible patterns, and we don't recognize them as having any meaning that we can attribute to them, but they probably, from whatever the intelligence is that makes them, probably are full of meaning from their point of view. So one of the intriguing things about the crop circle interest is trying to figure out, what is this crop circle trying to say? But even if we don't specifically recognize the meaning of a particular crop circle pattern, it's obvious that the crop circle phenomenon is getting quite a bit of world attention, with some people, of course, more than others. Some people just have a passing interest. Some people just assume they're all made by men, by blokes from the local pub, as they say in England. But many of us worldwide think it's much more meaningful than that, and that it somehow comes from an intelligence that is off planet, coming to the Earth. So these crop circles have a lot of energy in them if they are genuine and not man-made. The man-made crop circles look sometimes very messy and sloppy and indistinct edges, and yet there are some man-made ones that look quite precise and pretty impressive. However, the man-made crop circles have no additional energy in them, but the genuine ones are full of energy. That's one of the ways that you can tell the difference between a man-made, a hoax, and a genuine crop circle, is the energies. And the energies can be actually detected in various ways. Some people measure the energy in a crop circle with an electrostatic voltmeter. Other people will use a magnetometer. Still, other people will use a microwave detector, and they detect on the dial of these machines that there definitely is a difference between being outside of the crop circle, anywhere else in the field, and being inside the crop circle, because that's where the energy is much more intense. And some of us use other measuring devices too. For instance, I have, for most of my 27 crop circle years, have used dowsing rods. And the dowsing rods just stay absolutely parallel everywhere else. But in a genuine crop circle, they just open right up. And when it's a very energized area of a crop circle, if it weren't for my body being in the way, they would swirl all the way around in a circle. And I have many friends who, instead of using dowsing rods, will use a pendulum. And they'll hold up the pendulum in some sort of a line with a plumb bob or plumb object at the bottom of it. And it will indicate, it will move if there is extra energy in the crop circle. So it's been really fun to go in crop circles and detect the energy. And also, many of us have the sensitivity where we actually feel the energy of the crop circle. We might feel it in the air with the palms of our hands, or we might feel it with our whole body, or we might feel it when we're sitting down in a laid down crop circle, or when we're lying down. So in any crop circle, it's very likely that we'll see somebody or other, or maybe two or three people, sitting in the swirled center of the crop circle, because there's an intensity of energy there. And very often we'll find somebody lying down in a crop circle, either sleeping were just having a wonderful state of meditation. And then there were always people walking around and people in the crop circle, and there were people down on their hands and knees studying what's happened to the crops, because a lot happens to the crops that are laid down in a genuine crop circle. For instance, the growth nodes are very often swollen or even split open, and the seed heads of the crop seem to be misshapen and dwarfed and look as if they're really strange. I mean, something major has happened to them, and that the plants in a genuine crop circle, as they come up out of the ground, they're just very gently bent over. There's no breaking, no cracking of the plants as they're bent over. And so they retain their connection with their roots, every plant that's laid down, and they continue to grow along the ground now and to ripen and come to full maturity. And there have been lots of studies about what's happened to the seeds of these crop circle plants. And it's been detected in various experiments that have gone on for a number of years that these seeds from the crop circle plants, even though they're kind of dwarfed and misshapen, they don't look like they would be effective, but they are effective. When they are planted next to control samples from the same crop outside of the crop circle, the crop circle seeds will grow much faster, stronger, fuller, and even, it's been tested, more nourishing than the control plants.
Right.
So something really important is going on here.
We have 2 minutes left. Hard to believe this has flown by, but I want to get Natalie's question. She's over in Scandinavia, and she is asking, as a little bit off topic, but as crop circles are often symbols or symbolism, is there such a thing as symbols or symbolism on contactees' bodies? For example, patterns of birthmarks on skin.
Thank you so much for asking that question. Yes, people very often will wake up with a new marking on their skin. And it turns out that those markings were put on by the extraterrestrial beings the previous night when they were asleep and didn't even know what was happening. So a lot of these markings on the skin do form a pattern, a recognizable pattern. For instance, there might be a perfect circle made of what look like little pink pinprick marks, or it might be a perfect triangle mark of little pinpricks, or it might be a perfect triangular bruise, particularly on a woman's abdomen. It's fairly typical. Or it might be a straight line of little pinprick marks, or it might be a scoop-shaped mark, like somebody had taken a little scoop of skin out of the person's body in one location or another. And so most of them are pretty precise patterns. They're not just a smudge sort of thing. And so many people who experience extraterrestrial contact do at one time or another notice that there is a marking. Also, many people notice that there's a little object, we call it an implant, that had been placed somewhere in the body, often just under the surface of the skin, so the person can actually feel it from the outside. It might be on the arm, the leg, the wrist, the face, could be even in a tooth in some cases, or in a bone in the back, in the lower leg. Anyway, the implant, a toe, a finger, the implants are put at any place all over the
Wow.
body. Been a whole big study about that.
Barbara,
But
I got to cut it off right there because it is that time of the night where we have to say goodnight to you. Thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Coming up next, I am warming up the Magic 8 Ball. Psychic predictions with the 8 Ball next on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. I am so sorry I had to cut you off there. I apologize.
oh, that's okay. Time's up. Time's up.
Oh, I hear you. Sometimes it goes too fast.
I know.
It really does. Thank you.
Well, kind of keep them wanting more. That's a good thing.
We will do this again. Guaranteed.
Okay.
Much
Oh.
love for doing this finally.
Oh, I'm so
Finally.
glad we did. Yeah.
Much love to you, and you take care, and we'll talk to you very soon, okay?
Wonderful, Dave. Thank you very much. And you're a good interviewer, a good host.
Barbara Lamb, everybody.
Appreciate you.
Barbara Lamb, thank you so much. Take care.
Okay. Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, isn't her voice just so soothing? It really is. Natalie Semples, where have you been hiding? Is this my once-a-month visit from you? Oh, that was amazing. Amazing. Make sure that your questions are in capital letters for Magic 8 Ball. All right? She's just so smart. You know, half the questions that I was going to ask, hi TH, how are you? I would think of the question, and all of a sudden she'd ramble into a new sentence with that exact answer to the question that I was going to ask. It happened like 7-8 times tonight. I was like, this is so cool. This is just so cool. So happy about that. Excuse me. It's amazing. God, I could listen to her for hours. Excuse me. I'm going to turn my fan on. A little warm in here. There we go. Oh, that's better. Except when it drops. Stay there. Stay there. Thank you. All right, we got like 90 seconds. want to say a big thank you to Ozzy Steve, Vinster, Chad Smith, Mandingo, and Black Dragon ×2 for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate the love and support on Spaced Out Radio right here. Well, thank you, Natalie Simples. All right, hey, Low Pro, how you doing? Here we go, everyone. Rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say that you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's time once again where we warm up the Magic 8 Ball for your questions. Let's get psychic, shall we? Let's get into it. Magic 8 Ball is the master of telling what the future is here. And if you're in our YouTube chat room, all you got to do is put your questions in capital letters. We will get to them. Let's start off with Adjaran, who is asking, Mr. Magic 8 Ball, will I ever get to win a huge jackpot? And the answer from the Magic 8 Ball is all systems go. You're going to win a magic bingo blackout one night. Yes, the silver hairs are going to be all jealous of you when you win that $100 at the bingo hall. See, we're on to a great roll right off the bat here on the Magic 8 Ball. Peppa is asking, is our listener Fap's head bigger than a crop circle? Well, I know what the answer is to this. Let's see if the Magic 8 Ball agrees with me. And the answer is infinitely yes. Fap's head is bigger than a crop circle. That's exactly what I was thinking. Exactly what I was thinking. All right. Let's go to Lazarus. Magic 8 Ball. Was the moon placed in orbit by advanced beings? The answer is infinitely yes. Aliens moved the moon in order for us to have some beautiful dark skies and give us a little bit of light during the night. Beautiful aliens. See how much they care? They gave us a moon. All right, Sandra. Will Dave's hair get as long as Joe's mane? Joe has already responded by saying never. Well, let's see what's going to happen here. And the answer is, you have my pity. The answer is no, my hair will never get as long as Joe's. Yes, oob to you, Joe. By the way, Joe's saying, beware everybody, because this is a Canadian Magic 8 Ball. Not an American one, it's a Canadian one. Not sure what that has to do with anything, but okay. All right, you can have that one. Joey, over in the UK. Will Ireland be victorious over Portugal this weekend? If we're talking soccer here, if I'm asking a soccer question and you break my Magic 8 Ball, I'm going to be some pissed. Yes, and beyond. Ireland will win. Ireland, the home of soccer hooliganism that is spread all around the world. It's infectious. It's a disease. No one should like soccer, people. No one should like soccer. All right? Amy is wondering, will I ever change out my glasses style? So I have Ray-Ban horned rims. They're dark blue in color. I like them. First pair of glasses that I've had that I've liked in a long time. Apparently Amy's not a fan. Not today, Sheriff. That's right. Love these glasses. Love them. Sticking with me for at least another year or so. Nicola, is the asteroid Apophis going to hit Earth in 2029? The answer from the 8-ball is levels are positive that we're going to get smoked by this asteroid in 2029. It'll probably be the size of a peanut by then, but you never know. You never know. Cloudy with a chance of UFOs is asking, is Dave really Harry Potter from the future? You know, I've never seen a Harry Potter movie. And the answer is not today, Sheriff. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Peppa wants to know, will listener Chad Smith's shirts make Dave rich? Yes, and beyond. Oh, we are so marketing the Chad Smith t-shirt. They are going to be hot to trot in limited numbers when we get to the new website here in a couple of weeks. All right, Adrian, will Dave Scott reveal his true identity as a writer who has been catfished? I haven't written anything yet, so I don't know. Don't count on it. Don't count on it. Behoff, if we ask 2 Magic 8-balls the same question, will we get the same answer? Batteries are low, which means doesn't like that question. Doesn't like it. Knows what you're doing there, Behoff, and doesn't like it. Justin wants to know if Chad Smith has a true working job for the government in some alphabet agency. The answer is don't count on it. No, he makes nuts and bolts for secret space program aircraft. That's what he does. Well, we're continuing on here on Spaced Out Radio with the Magic 8-ball. I'm thinking of a new guitar. Will I get myself a Gibson Les Paul soon? Because I love those guitars. Out of fuel, try again later. Thank you. Really didn't want that answer, Magic 8-ball. I just want a Gibson Les Paul. Called you Irish, Joey. Didn't call you a Brit. Called you Irish. Big difference. Totally different country. Adrian, can Chad Smith possibly be a abductee? All clear. Yep, he's an abductee. He's got aliens. He's got aliens. Jenny wants to know, hold on, race fan is dissing hockey? Hold on. All stick and ball games are lame? Really? Stick and ball would be not hockey. All right. Do we have 2 moons, Magic 8-ball? All clear. Maybe it's a moonless night. I don't know. I'm not very confident in that answer, Jenny. Just to say. Let's try it again. All right, maybe there's some confusion because I kind of added in a new sentence there. All right, Jenny wants to know, Magic 8-ball, do we really have 2 moons? The answer is intel looks good. Well, where's the second moon then? Where's the second moon? Maybe this is it. Floating around the universe. Nice and bright. One on the eastern hemisphere, one in the western hemisphere, and they just shift. Like so, in an atmospheric way. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. Vinny, will the Dodgers win the World Series this year? Nope. That's my call. Why? New York Yankees coming out of the East. You watch. Sorry, Blue Jays fans. You have my pity. In other words, no, they are not going to win the World Series because it's time for the Yankees to come back on board. Be where they belong, right on top. Thurston Howell III. Will Carl be making an appearance sometime soon? No, you have my pity. I knew that answer. Notice the Magic 8 Ball is always predicting a no on that one. It's interesting how that happens. All right, B. Hoff. Will the false flag UFO alien attack happen within 5 years? No, you may have my pity. Not going to happen because there is no such thing as a Dr. Stephen Greer false flag alien attack. There's no proof, no nothing. Michelle in Australia is asking, have I ever been abducted by aliens? I being Michelle. So has Michelle ever been abducted by aliens, Magic 8 Ball? It is decidedly so. Michelle, you've got aliens. You really do have aliens. All right. Natalie, I think she's from Denmark. One of them Scandinavian countries. Will I be able to meet all of Dave Scott's people? No, she doesn't say Dave Scott. She says all you guys. At a UFO conference one day. Don't count on it. The reason why it's saying don't count on it is because first you got to fly to North America. Once you figure that out, then we can count on it. All right. Chad Smith. Will he overcome his fear of flying and end up joining us at the SOR party in Vegas when we schedule it? He better. Levels are positive, Chad Smith. You're going to be in Vegas with us. That is for sure. Justin, will we get congressional hearings on UFOs? Magic 8 Ball says, don't count on it. They're going to try and sweep this right under the rug. It's already happening. They don't want this subject, man. They don't want it to be with us. All right? Race Fan is asking, will Vinny ever admit to being abducted by aliens and getting anal probed? The answer is, you may rely on that answer. Yes, Vinny likes a good probing by aliens. Cloudy with a chance of UFOs is asking, will we ever get true disclosure? My sources say no, according to the Magic 8 Ball, and I agree with that. Look, any type of disclosure that we actually get literally is going to be garbage. It's going to be all part of a narrative. All part of a narrative. All right, let's move on. Adrian is asking, could Carl the Alien be available for the upcoming... No, I don't think so. Nope, not around. Not around. B. Hoff, is Taco Bell worse than an anal probe by aliens? All systems go. I could see that. I can't even argue that. As much as I am a defender of Taco Bell. Hey, Taco Bell Canada, where are you? We need a sponsor here. But yeah, I think that would be worse. All right, final question before we get to the news. This one comes from Excalibur. Does Excalibur have the fairest beard of them all? Ooh, dealing with a dangerous question here. We'll give it an extra shake. Yes and beyond. That is the Magic 8 Ball for this week. We'll do it all again next week, where we get all psychic and dreamy and give you the answers that you are craving. But first, let's get to the news. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR News Wire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the absolute grotesque. What do I mean by grotesque? Let's get right to it. Scientists have used stem cells and 3D printing technology to create a synthetic steak containing muscle, fat, and blood vessels. Two types of stem cells from Wagyu cows, bovine satellite cells, and adipose-derived stem cells were used to create the man-made meat. Wagyu meat has a high price tag, costing up to $200 per pound for the meat and $30,000 for an adult cow. Wow. You know what? That's not really the story for me here. All right? Let's not even get into the whole 3D meat thing. That's as bad as the vegan crap where they say, oh, we got turkey bacon and veggie bacon and veggie turkeys and veggie chicken and veggie steaks and near meat, beyond meat. That's the new term that's being thrown out. There is not. Guess what, people? If you are vegan, okay? If you are vegan, you're not eating meat. If you want meat so bad, dig into a luscious, juicy, greasy burger, man, filled with beef, pride, joy, and tears. And that's tears of happiness. All right? There is no such thing as fake meat. No tofu burgers, no veggie burgers. That's not a burger. Okay? This isn't being politically correct here. Okay? I'm offended. We need some serious cancel culture on these people who call fake meat, like 3D printed meat, meat. It is not meat. You might as well chew on some toilet paper and plastics while you're there. Horrible. Cannot believe that. Not happy with that at all. Not happy with it. Moving on. As if Belgium's human-loving chimpanzee wasn't bizarre enough, UK officials are cautioning swimmers to steer clear of an extremely horny dolphin named Nick that is acting very amorous towards people. Yes, there's a chance this dolphin could... Natalie's from Belgium, not Denmark. She's from Belgium. You better be careful swimming, Natalie, because I heard that this dolphin literally has a ghetto blaster with a cassette of Barry White that it is playing through the ocean. You know? Singing, my darling, I can't get enough of your love, babe. Yeah. Nick was spotted last summer for the first time in the Isles of Sicily, the site of Wally the Walrus's infamous boat sinking spree last spring. But apparently, he's pretty horny, being very aggressive sexually for a bottlenose, according to naturalist Chris Peckham. Yeah, this thing wants a partner. It wants to get laid bad. The footage that was shown with a bunch of people around was shot by British divers Marine Life Rescue and first posted on Facebook, shows the brazen sea beast splashing water and exciting swimmers and paddleboarders, performing tricks like an impromptu SeaWorld dolphin show. Well, problem is, there were women in the water, there were men in the water, and right now this dolphin doesn't care. It just needs to make sweet love. We had a call about a dolphin in St. Ives Harbor. Turned out to be the new socially solitary bottlenose dolphin we call Nick. It later turned up in Hale Harbor, looking for another partner. Maybe an orgy of people hanging out in the area. That didn't work either. No human wanted to get with it. The behavior's getting worse. Increasingly habituated to people's presence. It's strongly advised right now to stay a safe distance from the water from him, because otherwise you could get dolphin raped. That's just the way it is. You could get dolphin raped. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses. Today's Thought of the Dave is, could experiencers of UFO phenomena have more answers than government or scientists? Kimberly, it's all about perspective. Eugene, the experiencers have the answers, the scientists have the questions. Gail, the only way it can be described is how experts who have no children tell parents how to raise their kids. They believe they are so smart, they don't have a clue. John, that's possible, but at this point I continue to believe that some deep, dark part of government knows. Anne, does the Black Pope crap in the woods? Sparkles, I believe this could be a possibility. It would depend upon the types of experiences the experiencers are exposed to, endure, remember, and the list goes on. Joshua, 100% truth. Rob, doubt it. Catherine, Dave, I believe they have one part, experiences have the other, and the third miscellaneous force no one has even considered. Vincent, it's been 74 years since Roswell, and people are still in awe to lights in the sky like moths to a flame. When the bigger issue is who is behind the wheel and what the heck are they doing here? I agree with you. Totally agree with you. And let's see if we got time for one or two more here. Eric, that conversation hasn't happened yet. When it does, they will ask the wrong questions. James gets the final word. Both are necessary to each other. Individuals have experiences, but they need analysts and a wider context to figure out what is going on. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Dave. We will do it all again tomorrow. Thank you to Captain Shirky Poo for the news. Everybody played along with the Magic 8 Ball. And of course, the legendary Barbara Lamb talking about ET abductions and a regression that goes along with it. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat room tonight. YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, Twitch, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.